Assalamu alaikum students. So hope all of you are doing well and all of you have successfully joined the renewal of your colleges and your study. However, although our physical classes have been started, we have decided to continue the online classes, and that is the reason we are continuing with our online class. Now today's topic is adolescence, and today we are going to study the chapter 2. You may ask, what's about chapter 1? So you may remember that in the last 3 days we have already completed the first chapter. So we are starting with chapter 2, and then we will continue the following chapters. Of course, when I will enter in the physical classroom, I will definitely give you lecture on chapter 2 again, but I am not repeating chapter 1 here because we have learned it physically already. So let's start with chapter 2. Chapter 2 basically focuses on the problems and turmoils faced by the adolescents in their life. But this chapter has a special focus. That is, it focuses on the turmoil of the female adolescents especially. Now you may ask why the females have been emphasized much in this chapter. We may see in course of our discussion. So let's discuss this chapter at first. Adolescents, they face many problems and challenges, and it is important that we may discuss about these problems and challenges, because according to the United Nations, they constitute the core part of the population. Why such things are said? Because it is the adolescents who are going to lead the nation in future, and the number of adolescents is 28 million, while almost 50% are girls. Now, regarding the problems of adolescents, there are many. They are like child marriage, physical abuse, family pressure. These include child marriage, these include family pressure, these include physical abuse, these include health risk, these include early pregnancy. So child marriage, physical abuse, family pressure, health risk and early pregnancy. These are some particular challenges faced by our adolescents in their life. Now the question is, which gender face these things most? Are the girls or are the boys? If you go through this chapter, you will find that this chapter basically focuses on the problems related to the girls, because it has been found that in most cases it's the girls who are the most vulnerable section of the society. They face all those things, and in our society where the female empowerment is very much absent, at the same time we find that because of these problems, the females, they faces many challenges, and when these problems are faced by an adolescent girl, we can imagine what would be her condition. One of the major challenges a girl faces in our society is child marriage. So it is found that almost 33% of our girls, they are being married off before they reach their adulthood, and almost 60% of among these married girls, they become mother within or before their age of 15 years. So this is a very horrible picture we can find regarding our adolescents. Why? Because even before reaching their puberty, these girls are getting married. Now their body is not matured enough to go through the physical and mental change which occurs after a marriage. The result behind it is they are becoming mothers. The figure is almost 60% among the married girls who are getting married during their adolescent age. So they are facing this tremendous physical and mental pressure, and at an age when they have to they may play, they may enjoy the nature, they may enjoy gossiping, they have to take the responsibility of one or two children. So this is a very big problem which exists in our society. Often it happens that these mothers, these so-called child mothers, they are actually facing many health risks because their body is not programmed yet to bear that child. So when they are getting the child, bearing that child, ultimately what is happening, as they are not prepared enough, so they may face many kind of complexities during their pregnancy. They may face many health risks. They are facing many mental pressure to raise a little child when she herself is not properly adult. So these are the challenges a child mother faces. These are the challenges an adolescent girl face. Often it happens that even if the in-laws are very much supportive, even then, if she is a child mother, she cannot avoid the consequences of the health risks which she faces during her pregnancy. Because okay, maybe her in-laws are very much helpful, maybe her husband is very much supportive, and she is provided with enough care and medication, but at the same time, as she is not prepared physically to bear the child, so the health risks, they exist. And it often happens that in course of the birth of a child, many mothers, they die because of the health hazards they face in course of their pregnancy. And again, another important thing is our lack of knowledge regarding medication. We don't have our proper medical knowledge. So because of the lack of knowledge, there are many families who, although they are very much inclined to take care of these child mothers, although they are very much inclined to support these girls, they cannot ultimately properly respond to the challenges which have been faced by a child mother during her pregnancy. So what happens, that is, many kinds of diseases, not only death, not only mortality, rather many kinds of diseases are they affect the adolescent girls. Another important thing is, most of us don't have any proper idea about the STDs, about the sexually transmitted diseases, especially the most fatal disease, that is HIV. So it often happens that these girls, they are being affected by HIV, they are being affected by STDs, but they cannot talk to anybody about their problem. This is not only because of lack of medical knowledge, rather this is because of the very conservative social setup in our country, because of the very conservative social setup in Bangladeshi rural societies especially. It has been found that the people of rural Bangladesh, they lack the knowledge regarding STDs, regarding HIVs and other problems. So these things affect a girl's health. It affect her physically, but this is the only this is not the only challenge our adolescent girls face. Rather, there are many other challenges. Like the first one, it happens that our girls, they, if they study, even when they are getting married off, they are dropped off from her school. So the rate of the dropped children from the school is very high in the rural areas, in the rural Bangladesh, and these dropped children in most of the cases are the girls who are getting married and they have stopped to study. Even she gets a very supportive in-laws house, even then it often becomes impossible for her to continue her study, because right after getting married, she has to be involved in her household chores. So what is household chores? Household chore refers to গৃহস্থালী কাজকর্ম. So she has to face the pressure of household chores, and ultimately she cannot get enough time for studying. The ultimate result is she has been dropped off from the school, and it affects the whole ratio of education in our country. Another problem is the proper socialization. What is socialization? Now, what's that? Socialization, if we translate it into Bangla, we can translate it as সামাজিকীকরণ. So, the girls, they have to face a different society, because when ultimately she is being dropped off from her school, she is cut off from her friend circle, she is cut off from her familiar surroundings, and ultimately she has to face a challenge regarding her socialization. How? Because now she is in an unfamiliar world, and in that particular world she has to be familiar herself with many people who are not and were not familiar to her earlier. So she has to start from the beginning almost in her life, because she is losing her own friend circle, she is losing her own kids and kins, she is losing her own relatives, and she is in a new atmosphere, in a new environment, in a new surroundings. That is another reason which that is another challenge which our girls regularly are facing because of the child marriage. And all of these things happen because they are not prepared properly. Now you may ask that this is obvious, that after marriage you have to face a new surrounding, you have to make new friends, you have to be familiar with some relatives which are not known to you earlier. Okay, fine, this is correct, but this should be happen after the particular girl, the particular bride, she is getting her proper maturity. But here in Bangladesh, we are marrying them off at a very earlier age when she is not prepared mentally or physically. Now, perhaps it was her time to enjoy the nature, to enjoy gossiping, to enjoy short time games, but she is now facing the responsibility of rearing and maintaining a whole family. So if her in-laws are not supportive, just a few minutes ago we were talking that if in-laws are supportive enough, even then the consequence is very much disastrous. So what would be the consequence if the in-laws are not supportive? If the in-laws are not supportive, even the consequence will be more disastrous. Often it happens that the girl is being pressurized to have children at the very early age, and in course of childbirth the girl is being affected by many STDs. She often dies, many often die, and this is a very common fact, a known fact, that the rate of child mother's mortality, it was very much higher in our country even just a few years ago. Of course, nowadays it had been reduced because of the continuous effort and propaganda by the government, but even then the situation is not very much hopeful, and we are facing these challenges. Now you may ask that all of the things we are talking about, these are actually about the girls, and is there no mention, or is there no place for the boys, or the boys are very much happy, they are not facing any challenge, they are living a life which is actually which can be called a bed of roses? The answer is obviously no. Even the boys face a good number of problems. One of the major problem is their again their proper socialization. They are not socialized properly often, and they get in touch of the bad company. So often our adolescent boys, they are becoming addicted. They are becoming addicted to the drugs. They are turning drug addicted. Often they are engaged in violence. One of the major problems our law enforcement agencies and our schools and college authorities are facing nowadays is the child gangs. So these child gangs are actually consisted of some adolescents who are being involved in small gang wars, who are involved in many criminal activities, which are becoming a thorn in our society. সমাজের কাটা হয়ে যাচ্ছে. So this is a major challenge, and this is a major problem faced by our boys. Often in the rural areas, among the poor people, if the earning member, the father or the grandfather, usually the father in most of the cases, he becomes ill, or if he dies, often the whole responsibility of maintaining the family goes upon the adolescent boy, and he has to face the responsibility of maintaining the family at an age when perhaps the other boys of our age are playing, they are enjoying their times, they are passing their time with their friends and family. But these boys, they have to go for odd jobs because they have not completed their education properly. So at the white collar circle, they don't have any access. So ultimately they have to face the challenge to do the odd jobs, and they are facing the discrimination at their working place. They are being involved in child labor, but they are not getting the proper remuneration. So these challenges are being faced by the adolescent boys in our country. This is a long discussion, and the book which we are studying at our 11 and 12 class, these are designed in a way that is, from each chapter you may make 2 or 3 model questions, model passages. One of the major questions come from which is set up from these chapters is the summarization. Regarding summarization, often we do a mistake. We just select 5 particular sentences and copy them on our exam paper, which is not accepted totally. Rather, what we have to do is we have to write it down in our own way. For example, if we if we summarize what we have spoken up to now, that is, adolescence is an age of turmoil and problems. Adolescents are important for our society, and that is the reason their problems should be considered. In our country, it is the adolescent girls who are the most vulnerable section of the society. They face many problems like child marriage, physical abuse, family pressure, health risk, etc. The adolescent boys also may face many problems like violence, drug addiction, forced labor, etc. Enough. So we don't need to add anything else because there is not anything left. The art of summarization is you will deliver what is said in the passage in your own language within very short space. You are giving your own idea about the passage within 3 or 4 sentences, 4 or 5 sentences, or at best 7 sentences. At best, not more than that. And try to use simple sentence and compound sentence here. Do not copy and paste the particular sentences which you think constitute the main idea of the passage. Now, if you cannot write down in your own words, try to paraphrase the particular sentence which you have selected as a sentence which can be used for the summary. For example, suppose there is a sentence that in our country the number of adolescent girl is, suppose, a particular figure, and they are considered the most vulnerable section of the society because they are facing many challenges like child marriage, physical abuse, etc., etc. Fine. Let's paraphrase it and turn it into a simple sentence. The adolescent girls are the most vulnerable section in our society, facing many challenges like this, and this. So you have simplified a very long sentence. Then go for the second one and again simplify it. So in this way, you may be able to make 5 particular sentences, and those sentences are useful to summarize the passage. So for those who are not competent enough to make your own sentences to summarization, my suggestion is follow some particular steps. The first step is select 5 or 6 sentences which contain, according to your own point of view, the main message of the passage. Then try to simplify those sentences and write those down on your exam paper. Avoid complicated figures and examples. Do not use these lines like, for example, that. Do not give examples in the summarization. But of course, you may give data and figure if those are mentioned in the passage. Then, of course, you don't need to write down your own opinion, that is, in my opinion we have to do this. We haven't asked for your opinion. Just summarize it in a shortened form, in a simplified form. But do not copy and paste. That will be very much negative for you in at your examination. So students, that is enough for today. Allah Hafiz.